Shalom and welcome to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. This is a recording of Rabbi Avi Havivi's weekly Siddur class.
This week I'm going to try to zip through Rabbi Zalman Schachter-Shalomi's comments on the Amidah. Next week we're going to try to zip through what he has to say about the beginning and end of the service, the end and then the beginning. And then we'll take a break for 4 weeks and resume August 20-something. I can't remember that date. I'll announce it again next week. And then I'm gonna zip through this material because I really want to sort of stop at a logical place. I hate when we take a break at a not logical place. Then it's hard to pick up the thread again. And then after the break, we'll talk about Reb Zalman's thinking about God explicitly, right? He's not a systematic theologian. He has various. So he doesn't say, I believe this and this is my system, the way systematic theologians do. He just has various thoughts that he shares about God, which will be helpful. Maybe we should have started with that, or maybe we should have done only that, but I've enjoyed looking at what he has to say about the Amidah, and I hope you got about his interpretations of various parts of the Siddur, his concept of the four worlds, the four sections. So I hope you've gotten something out of that too. Okay. So give me a moment to set up my thing. And then I'm going to screen share a new selection for those listening at home. This is going to be different than the one last time. All from the same book on davening. Okay. And I'm going to skim here because I really want to get through it today. And we got a late start. My apologies, and I got to finish on time. Okay. Asking for what was so reminding you the four sections of the Siddur, the four worlds, Birchot HaShachar, physicality, physical world, Psukei de Zimra, our emotional world, Shacharit, meaning Shema and its blessings, intellectual, what does the Jew believe, and the fourth level, Atzilut, is the Amidah, and that is spiritual, right? So he says we're supposed to get ourselves in a spiritual place where we now have what I refer to as your private audience with God. Okay. And the first three blessings. And this is helpful. It's, we've done this stuff years ago and several times in our class kind of reviewed the different brachot. So this is helpful review. On page 116 near the bottom. Make it a little bigger. Our connection to God goes back thousands of years, and we acknowledge that history first. The first blessing is known as the blessing of the Avot, patriarchs or ancestors. We say, God, you have been with us since the days of Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob and Rachel and Leah. You remember the chasadim, the good deeds that they did. Please draw that merit down to us and look after us if you did them, right? It's kind of like introducing yourself as who you are. You are someone from this lineage that goes back thousands of years. And we've talked in the past of other, I've taught about, my kind of meditation based on the first blessing. You can go back and find that in, I don't know what year. Might be 2022, 2021. The second paragraph of the Amidah blesses God for sustaining life and helping the sick and the fallen, even to Tchiyat HaMeitim, resurrection of the dead. Here our minds rebel. The resurrection of the dead is an ancient principle of the Jewish faith, one that Maimonides included as one of the 13 principles of Jewish belief. Meitim yechaye el berov chaso baruch adei ad shem tehilato. That's why it's the last line of the Yigdal. It's the 13th principle. Yet in what way can I affirm this? I do not believe that the crypts will open up in cemeteries and corpses will crawl out of them. I do not believe that the individual cells of my remains will be reconstituted at the end of days. How many bodies have I worn out in only one lifetime already? How can I praise God for enlivening the dead and meaning it? And then he goes on a whole science thing about how our matter gets decomposed into other matter, and I was created physically of that which was considered dead before. What a miracle it is. That's where he leaves it. Okay. Third bracha, I actually like this. Sorry, when I say I like this, I mean I got something new out of this. The last of the three fixed blessings that introduce the Amida is Atah Kadosh. Remember again, first three blessings and last three blessings are always the same at every Amidah, morning, noon, and night, weekday, holiday, and Shabbat, whereas it's the middle section that changes from weekday to holiday and Shabbat. Some people object to this basic Jewish vocabulary word, holy. Dividing things into holy versus unholy brings us to dualism and polarity, and we're not comfortable in that place, right? Saying this is holy, which implies that this is not holy, or the technical word is profane, chol, kodesh and chol. But take a look. My toenails are a part of me, but not at the same level as my brain cells. So there is a difference in gradation and level. We learned this from organismic thinking. Unity and non-duality do not mean homogenized. It's funny, if you put me into a blender and blended all my cells together, I wouldn't be alive anymore. In order to be alive, I have to maintain differentiation. All the different parts work together. It's all part of the one, but at different levels. Okay? So he's saying in Atah Kadosh, we acknowledge that the world, even not dualistic, even all connected, which of course is the basic Kabbalistic and Hasidic idea, all connected into one, but still there are different levels of meaning and existence and connection. Not everything is the same, right? This is the root idea of the long final blessing of Havdalah on Saturday night. Hamavdil ben Kodesh l'chol, ben Or l'choshech, ben Yisrael amim, ben Yom hashvi'i l'shesh yemei hamaseh. Right, it basically means Hashem, an integral part of our existence, is that we perceive things differentially. I don't love other women the same way I love my wife. Otherwise, I'd get in a lot of trouble, right? We differentiate. And it may be a mistake to call it levels, because levels implies higher and lower, but we could think of it as closer attachment and further attachment, or different roles, okay? But still, we have different levels of meaning, existence, and connection to the world. If we didn't, Bein Or L'Choshech, if we didn't differentiate, we couldn't see color, okay? We couldn't distinguish, right? So being capable of making distinctions is an essential part of how we relate to the world. Ancestors, life, holiness. That is the three blessing foundation the Amida rests on. That is our gate. Okay. Here's what interpretation that I like. It's about Avraham Yitzchak. There's a mapping in Midrash and Kabbalah of mapping the three patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, onto these three blessings. I just want to comment. By the way, it's obvious why Isaac in the second blessing. Abraham, he was the founder, first blessing, that makes sense. Isaac in the second blessing, why? What's the connection to the second blessing with Isaac? What's the bracha?
He survived.
Nechayei hametim. He was the guy who was brought up to the Akedah, right? But then lived. So Yaakov, how does Yaakov map onto the third bracha? Yaakov was the balabas, the homemaker. He was bottom of page 118. He was always embroiled in family life, his wives, his many children, their squabbles, making sure they had enough to eat. In the Amida's third blessing, we say, Ukdoshim b'chol yom yahalalucha, Selah. We talked about this in the past. We said, who are the Kedoshim, the holy ones who praise God? Two possibilities. One, the angels, right? Because that bracha gets expanded as a Kedusha about the angels. Two, because we imitate the angels, we are the Kedoshim. This is usually translated as holy beings praise you every day. But I like to read it that those who praise you are Kedoshim b'chol yom, holy in the everyday, rather than a holiness that sets itself apart from the world. He interprets this bracha kind of the second way I said, but not we're holy because we're imitating the angels, but rather people who are Kedoshim b'chol yom, who live holiness in the everyday, those are the ones who praise you. Or, I'm going to say that a different way, the act of living by finding holiness in the everyday, that's the praise of God, which of course is very Chassidish, right? One of the lines Chassidim say is B'chol drachecha da'ehu, in all of your paths, or literally all of your walkings, all of your paths, know God. K-N-O-W as a commandment, right? Know God through everything that you do. The other phrase they use is avodah shebegashmiut, service of God through physicality. That's why they sing, that's why they dance, why they emphasize working, okay? Because the idea is that your service of God is through the quotidian, if I may use a fancy word, right? Through your daily stuff, right? So I like that interpretation of ukdoshim b'chol yom, right? That gave me something new. The middle blessings, okay. Last sentence in this first paragraph. On a weekday when we are beset with cares and concerns, we take this opportunity to turn to God and unburden our heart. Paragraph near the bottom of the page. My single most important message about the Amida is to make it your own. Prayer will never truly be part of our lives until we address our real concerns. This, from a davener's point of view, is really the moment of truth, meaning the middle section of the Amida is where you make davening your own. And yet asking for what we truly need is the hardest part of prayer. Here's a little bit of theology. We throw up all sorts of obstacles. Whom am I praying to? Who am I to ask for anything? Will it help? We have written extensively about these questions elsewhere. I'll try to get to some of that, but here is a summary. Who am I praying to? I am praying to God, however I understand and experience that word right here and right now. I may not be praying to the God that is all, but simply sharing my tsuris with the face of God with which I am most intimate. Perhaps I am praying to whatever it is that listens in the universe. I don't need to do any more than that. So here's how he addresses this $64,000 question. We're asking for things. Who are we praying to? And the answer is whoever God is for you at that moment, right here and right now. It could be the all. It could be Maimonides' God outside the universe who set everything going. It could be an intimate that I'm just sharing my tsuris with. It could be, is there any part of the universe listening out there? Whatever it is at that moment. It doesn't need to be more than that. You don't actually have, we're doing this class to try to help you figure out your theology. When you're davening the middle blessings of the Amida, you don't have to work on figuring out your theology. Just be with God, however God is for you at that moment, which of course, I just want to state the obvious, can vary from day to day. Okay. Who am I to ask for anything? I am a creation and manifestation of godliness. I am a wave in the ocean. Or I'm going to put some words into this sentence. I am only one wave in the ocean, and yet I am a world unto myself. That balance of my limit, my finitude with, yet I'm part of the all. The infinite potential for creativity and love in the universe manifests in me and through me as it does in every other creature. And that's why I ask. That's why I'm entitled to ask. And will it help? I'm just skimming. We pray daily for peace, yet we are still at war. Prayer is not a switch with which we can control the universe. But I do believe that we can with our prayers. Reach dimensions of existence that we do not otherwise have access to, and that the openings in those higher worlds bring blessings down to us. Okay? He is pretty mystical and metaphysical here. Not just prayer makes you a better person. Okay? I do believe, I'm going to read it again. This is his belief that we can, with our prayers, reach dimensions of existence that we do not otherwise have access to, and that the openings in those higher worlds bring blessings down to us. he seems to not just mean this psychologically. I'm accessing parts of myself and bringing forth blessings. But now he says the psychological part. And don't forget the more immediate benefits at home. Prayer waters thirsty souls like rain on flowers. Prayer may not bring world peace, but it gives my heart peace. Prayer may not cure the sick, but it helps us find healing. Prayer may not guarantee me a job, but it helps me rise up with renewed energy and purpose to address the obstacles before me. A prayer, truly prayed, this is like some Zen koan, the next sentence. A prayer truly prayed is the beginnings of its own answer. So yes, prayer helps. So first he says the metaphysical, then he says the psychological. Okay. So here's his, how we do the laundry list. His interpretation of the laundry list. I'm skimming to bottom page 123. The blessings of the daily Amida might seem like arcane formulas and stilted phrasing at first, particularly in translation, but they are wonderful opportunities to ask for things to concern us. I think he means ask for things that concern us. I've tried to paraphrase them here in direct, everyday language. This will give you some sense of how to make the blessings your own, how to add the things that most concern you at this point. Here they are in order. Okay? And one thing I like in particular about Reb Zalman is his not inaccurate, but folksy and down-to-earth translations and understandings of these prayer, which is kind of the main reason of why we're doing this today, this particular class. Atachonein, Dad, you give us wisdom. Help me align my intellect with clarity and purpose. Give me inspiration. Help me realize my highest intentions. Hashivenu, Oi, dear God, return us to your ways. Help me to serve you. Bring me back so that I might turn toward you again. Of course, because we know we go astray from our highest intentions all the time. Slach lanu, forgive us, God, for the top of 124. Forgive us, God, for the things we have done wrong. If there's anything I can do to correct them, please let me do it. And if I can't fix it, please wipe the slate clean and help me to do it better next time. Re'eh, please, God, see where I hurt and when I'm troubled. Use the power of Gevura, or power, to see me through. I actually think of this more personally. This is Re'onyenu. I think of this more as redemption of suffering in the world rather than me personally. But, we'll see what I think after my knee surgery. Rifa'enu, if you heal me, I know I'll be healed. I place myself in your compassionate heart. Please grant healing to me and all your people. And again, in many of our Siddurim, this is the only bracha on the Amida where you have explicit instructions in small print that you can expand for your own prayer. But again, you're able to expand in all of them. Barech Aleinu Ribono Shel Olam, the crops. I'm worried that I won't be able to make a living for me and my family. Please bless all my crops this year, and let the earth be bountiful to us as well. Tekah b'shofar gadol. Now it's interesting. He makes some of these blessings, which are communal. He makes some of them more. These blessings which are communal and political. He spins some of them a little differently. The second half of the request. Tekah b'shofar gadol, which is about ingathering of the exiles, superficially. Dear God, you know that we are scattered and our efforts are scattered. Please bring us together and awaken us to our common purpose. Point us always to higher things and to our ultimate redemption. Very different than the superficial meaning we take it, which is ingathering of the exiles, right? He interprets it as we are scattered, our efforts are scattered. Bring us together and awaken us to common purpose. Okay, different spin. Hashiva Shoftenu, so many people in the world suffer from injustice. Please bring justice and fairness to them and give each of us the judgment to know what is right, right? So it's not just about good government, right? It's justice in general, and help me have a good sense of judgment. Lamal Shinim, dear God, much as we strive for the good, yet evil still survives and thrives among us. Please disrupt the plans of those who choose the paths of violence and malice. Alat Tzadikim, on the other hand, thank God there are those who do the right thing, who act in fairness and chesed. Guard all of those who trust in your name and help me to be one of them. Yerushalayim and Tzemach David. Again, these were the ones that were originally one bracha in Mishnaic times, and then in the Babylonian Talmud ended up being divided into two. Please, which made the Shmona Esrei into 19 blessings. Please help to bring us as a people to our highest destiny. Again, avoids a little bit the politics of Zionism, right? Please help us, bring us as a people to our highest destiny. Even the anti-Zionists who want to walk out when we sang Hatikva could agree to that statement, correct? Right? Please help to bring us as a people to our highest destiny. Dwell among us as you promised, and rebuild the city of Jerusalem on earth and in our hearts. Shema Kolenu, hear our voices. I know even if I had no one there to listen to me, you are there in blessing. The rabbis recommended this blessing as especially suited to saying anything that's in your heart and has not found a place in the rest of the Amidah. Wait, is there anything I wanted to add? Put that in my Shema Kolenu. The Amidah closes with three final blessings. The first, Ritzei, is called the blessing of Avoda. What are we saying? Underlined, take pleasure, God, in our way of praying. Teach us to encounter your presence. We are saying everything that we've been praying about, please receive that. We want to be certain that we didn't talk to the wall, right? Hashem, may my prayer be that I just gave to you. May it be meaningful. May it be an encounter with your presence. Okay, then he has a thing about the Beit HaMikdash. I'm going to skip that. He says something about Hamachazir Shechina Tolet Zion, who returns his Shechina to Zion, which is the bracha for that blessing. I'm in the middle of page 126. Where does the Shechina dwell today? In our hearts. Okay. We can let God in. I build the Mishkan in my heart. So when you say, blessed are you, God, for restoring your Shechina to Zion, put your hand over your heart for a moment and say, thank you for giving your Shechina a home in my heart. Thank you for being the awareness that I have in my heart, the awareness that I have prayed for. Thank you for being the divine presence in me. That is an interpretation, but according to Rabbi Zalman, of Hamachazir Shechinato Litzion. Where is Tzion? Here. Okay? This is your sanctuary. Again, kind of, you can, so he's saying you can daven it and appreciate it on the political, concrete level if you want, or you can do it in a Hasidic internalized interpretation if you want. Modim, gratitude. I don't think he adds anything to anything that we haven't said a zillion times. The Modim is the easiest prayer in the Amidah, perhaps, to appreciate, right, without having to do much interpretation. I'm grateful for all these things that I have. There are lots of things I don't have that I want, but there are plenty of things that I do have, and all of those are miracles, and I'm grateful for them. They're everyday miracles. Ve'al nisecha shebechol yom imanu. Right? It totally loops us back to Birchot HaShachar, right? All the little things that we take for granted. That if I'm a person with sight, that I'm able to see. Okay? If I have a roof over my head, that I have a roof over my head. And then he doesn't say much, by the way, about Sim Shalom, other than there's no vessel better for peace than containing blood. No vessel better than peace for containing blessing. He doesn't have much interpretation of that. Then Elohai Nitzur, all right, leaves room for improvisation. Meaning, he knows that this is the prayer. That was just an example of the individual closing prayer. Everyone's supposed to pause after you say the statutory Amidah to add some unique words of your own. Back to, we studied it together years ago, Masechet Brachot. There are, I think, 11 or 13 examples of prayers that people said. And Mar Bar Ravina, his prayer, I think it was Mar Bar Ravina, his was Elohai Nitzur. And for whatever reason, that's the one that the group mind decided to stick and be our closing. And then, of course, it becomes part of our fixed prayer, quasi, even though it's really not. You think it's fixed because it's printed, right? But really, you're supposed to be saying your own prayer. So I have, because me personally, I'm a both this and that guy. I usually say Elohai Nitzur, but I have other things that I include in it, which are my own personal words. Okay, So this is, and a lot of this material is familiar, kind of why I brought it. The main reason is Reb Zalman, I think, has some interpretations of some of these brachot that are somewhat novel and different and give different aspects to it. Like, Tekah b'shofar gadol cherutenu mikabetz Yisrael, gather in the exiles. His interpretation of we are scattered, we're all scattered, our efforts are scattered, help us all come together to work together in a unity to serve you, which is very different. I just want to point out then, please ingather the exiles to the Holy Land. Okay. It's a different spin. So he has a different spin on some of these brachot, which I would say some of it is novel to him, but a lot of it is really standing on the shoulders of Chassidut, which, again, one of the moves of Chassidut is the internalization and symbolization of mitzvot. Aaron should put lights in the menorah, Parshat Bahalotcha. That means each of us should have light in our heart. And what does light mean? Right? It does not disavow the concrete or pshat meaning. It is a yes and also. Yes and also, there's a way that you internalize this. It's about your internal psychological and spiritual relationship to God, right? So he's garbing some of it in modern lingo, okay? By the way, modern lingo emerging from, the 70s, a lot of it, right? And sort of liberal politics, right? Because that is where renewal is in general, politically, the renewal movement. But it's really piggybacking on the one core idea of Hasidism, that all the mitzvot that we do, they may have physical, external manifestations, but we are meant to understand them symbolically as internal process. For those who are into Hebrew, the word that scholars use about this, well, the word that the Hasidim use is panimiyut, from lifnim. Panimiyut means literally internality, internalness, right? And the word that scholars use about this in the process of saying what does Hasidut do, it's called hafnama, which is interiorization, right? That which is about a mitzvah that we do, you are supposed to interiorize it, okay? Some of which is superficial and easy to understand, like you bow in the Amida because it's submissiveness before a power greater than you, or worship of a power greater than you. So that the core idea that actions are symbolic is not foreign even to core rabbinic Judaism. But Hasidism takes it and really runs with it. And Reb Zalman is piggybacking, using contemporary language onto that Hasidic idea, and in that way he is neo-Hasidic. I will pause for questions or comments. I'd like everyone who's live to tell me one thing you got out of the Reb Zalman reading this week that you'll take forward with you. One thing, because I thought he had a whole bunch of novelties. Paul, go ahead, jump in. Thank you. Don't be shy.
The point you just now made that he's piggybacking off of the ancient Hasidic idea that what a mitzvah does is it does something inside your own soul. I never thought of that as Hasidic particularly.
It is.
I thought of it as modern. I grew up with the modernists.
Right. Well, by the way, historians will tell you Hasidic is modern, right? Well, if you ask historians, when does modernity start? They'll say like, in Holland in the the middle 1600s or something like that. In terms of, the sense of a self and an individual and your own internal world, right? So if you look at, politics and Enlightenment philosophy. So Hasidism is starts in the 1700s, right? And it responds to modern concerns. It's not contemporary, right? But it's sort of, we're part of contemporary culture, which is modern. And when does modernity start? Got it. So, so there's all kinds of ways, but Hasidism and then the Musar movement, these are movements that really respond to modern concerns, which is, if I can say it briefly, what about me as an individual, right? As opposed to you do these things because you're part of a group that does these things and you're commanded to do them. That's why you do them, right? It's about what the modern concern is, but what about my internal world? And Hasidism is very concerned with what about my internal world. Actually, that's kind of the primary religious thing of Hasidism. It's like, oh, of course you do mitzvahs. That's taken for granted, right? Of course you daven 3 times a day, right? But what about your internal world when you're davening? This is kind of at the core of Hasidic thought. Okay, Michael. Oh.
I like the idea of the Mishkan as your heart.
Mm-hmm. Right. I skipped over the phrase, but he quotes the phrase, which I believe is from Psalms, I think. Bilavavi Mishkan Evneh. I will build a Mishkan in my heart. And again, what is a Mishkan? Literally, it is from the root shachan, to dwell, right? Vayikra, or maybe Shmot, I can't remember if it's in Exodus or Leviticus, says, I guess it's Shmot, the commandment to it, right? Ve'asuli mikdash, v'shachanti betocham. They will make for me a sanctuary, and I will dwell among them. Superficial meaning, my kavod will live in the Mishkan in the desert, which Bnei Israel will build. But what Hasidism takes it to mean is I will dwell in them, meaning in each person. Okay? If you make a place for me, there will be a place for me. Mishkan related to the word Shechina, which is dwelling, right? So that's Bilvavi Mishkan Evneh. I will build a Mishkan for you in my heart, inside of me. Right? So again, this is a classic example of the hafnama, the interiorization that Hasidut does, right? And again, they don't say it's an either or. They don't say the temple, the third temple should not be rebuilt. They say they're from. They say the temple should be rebuilt. Now, I'm not talking about Reb Zalman. I'm talking about Hasidism, right? The temple should be rebuilt, of course. But it also means, right? It's a yes and. Okay. Surely there are modern interpreters. This is what would make them neo-Hasidim, who might say it's not yes and, but what it really means is, and therefore the superficial is less important. Therefore, the idea of an actual physical rebuilt temple is less important than the sanctuary you create for God in your heart. That's kind of neo-Hasidic and not Hasidic. Because neo-Hasidic really means from the 70s onwards. Okay, these are people who self-consciously embraced Hasidic ideas. We're studying one of them. Then we're going to do Art Green. There are lots of other people, but they're mining Hasidic treasures for ideas that can be relevant to contemporary people. And they might say, I'm not quoting Reb Zalman or anyone in particular, but there are a lot of them who would say, I have no need for a physical third temple. By the way, there would be some of them who would say, and today, the idea of a physical third temple is potentially dangerous because there are political religious zealots who are willing to take that to its logical conclusion right now, and that would be dangerous. There are people who plot to blow up the Temple Mount. It's not like there's no one who's doing that. Okay? So there are people who say not it means that and it means that, Neo-Hasidic thinkers, but originally it meant that superficial physical thing, but now we understand it more deeply, and it means the internal thing and not the concrete thing. Okay? And I'm not going to vote on that. I'm just going to, it is my job to lay it all before you. Okay, let's ring off. I want everyone to think about something to take forward from Reb Zalman. We will meet next week. Next week we're going to talk about, he's going to talk about the end. He's going to talk about the cool down after the spiritual high. Then it's like your workout. You got to have the cool down, and that is Tachanun and Aleinu. Okay, Tachanun Aleinu Kaddish. And he's also going to talk about just a foreshadowing, Netilat Yadayim, washing of hands before prayer. We'll talk about the end. We'll go in order, end, and then he has something to say about the beginning. That's what we'll do next week, and then we'll take, I'm anticipating a 4-week break. So God willing, see you all next Tuesday. Stay healthy. Be Torah.
You have been listening to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. If you enjoy these podcasts, we invite you to write a review on the Apple Podcast site or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information about Temple Beth Am Los Angeles, go to tbala.org.